and the scope is massive. So it's really looking at everything from sort of, education for sort of 4-year-olds through to 19. I think it goes up to Key Stage 5 from primary. And it's looking at, how we assess what's in the curriculum.
Hello and welcome to the Test Community Network. My name is Tim Burnett. I hope you're safe and well. As ever, we've got a jam-packed session for you today. I'm in conversation with Rebecca Conway of NCFE. Rebecca is just an amazing expert on assessment in the UK, kind of the curriculum, the vocational side of things, every kind of nitty-gritty side of the kind of education assessment side. She's kind of been a policy advisor, and now she's heading up the research and innovation side at the wonderful NCFE. Before we start today, anything I mention on today, as ever, you can find it on the Test Community Network. You can subscribe for that for free, and you get an amazing email that comes through with jam-packed full of really quite interesting insights of what's been going on in our space, events, podcasts, and content, and other materials that have been shared and put onto the marketplace. Just to remind you that I have a webinar later today. So this is going out on Thursday morning, unusually and not normal time. So here's my webinar that I will be doing later today. Let's get rid of that. So it's AI Superpowers for UK awarding organisations. So you should still have time to sign up and register it. You can find it on LinkedIn. I'll put the link in the show notes. You can go to the Test Community Network website and you'll find a link on there as well. While I'm in here, I'm just going to show you a new addition to the beta lab. So this is a little bit of a project I've been working on where I've been using AI tools to create interesting AI-based applications. And I've got, how many I've got there? I've got 6 up there now. We've got 2 versions of a multiple choice generator. We've got the MCQ distractor generator, which is something I'll be demonstrating and talking about a bit more about in the webinar later today. But this one here, the new one here, AI item bank. So what I've done here is I've kind of built on the original MCQ creator that's in there as well. What I've done though is fold it into software. So anyone who knows these things, these are no-code, low-code platforms. So the idea being that you've got your item bank here. You can actually update and add in your own API key for OpenAI, but at the moment it's all working off one of my API keys, so that's all fine. You can have a play with it and test in there. We've got subjects that have been generated, so you create a new subject, you add in what language you want, level, the learning outcomes you want in there, the title of it, the topic, sorry, and you can generate the items on there. When those items are generated, they come through to this tab here, and you get a long list of items that you can then go through. You can edit them if you want to, you can delete them, or put them in the trash, and you can also export them as CSV. So quite an interesting little tool. Feel free to have a go and have a play with that. Other interesting news then, let's come back to me there. So things that are going on, we've got the Education Assessment Group. This is Dr. Mary Richardson's can lead on this one. They've got a schools-based assessment policy practice moderation webinar. That's later on today. If you're watching this on the 21st, it's about 5:30, so UK time. So if you want to watch that. Next week, we've got the FAB conference. That's on the 25th and 26th. It is a hybrid option. So if you do want to watch that remotely, then you can do that. University of Manchester Innovation Factory, they've got AI Essentials for Academics. That's a webinar that's coming up, interesting one to look at. We've got the Council of, this is clear, International Symposium, that's virtual on the 3rd to the 4th. And we've also got on the 3rd, we've got the Westminster Education Forum. That's a virtual event looking at the future of assessment in England. And then finally, we've got British Expertise webinar. I think this was Jonathan Ledger's sharing this one. So it's worth checking that out if you're interested in Education India. Just a few other things to kind of note then, other events. Obviously got the in-person events and hybrid events going on the bottom, as you can see there. There's the ICOBC, I'm sure there's a acronym for that one, symposium. We've got content-wise, we've got university admissions, a new bit of content that's gone on there for Oxford Education Department, quite really good content. It's worth checking that out. Ofsted inspection report, so we're checking that out if you're interested. And because we've had our conferences, we've had the ICE conference going on. hopefully everyone's had a nice time in Miami. A few kind of announcements from organizations. So PSI have announced they've got a deepfake detection program underway. So they've announced that, and Prometric unveils AI-powered auto-scoring technology to transform high-volume grading. So they're obviously looking at the K-12 space there as well. Then some of the things on content, we've got a book. This is Isabel Nesbitt. She spoke at the EAA conference, I want to say 2023, maybe 2024. She did a great presentation there. I think she's former Ofqual lead, if I get that right, but I'm really quite into accessibility, etc. So it's worth checking out. Chalk and Gravel podcast, athletic malpractices. Students, quite an interesting podcast. That one's worth listening to. Edge Futurists, as ever, brilliant ones. Ben and Steve doing a big review. Part 5. I don't know if there's going to be any more. The Exam Man, Secure Room Exams of School Performance. And then finally, we've got Evidence-Based Education podcast, Elements of Great Teaching. So they're all there on the Test Community Network thing. So if you go to podcasts up there, you'll find all that great content all listed down there when it loads. There you go. There. And you can listen in there. And also anyone who is using Notebook LM, you can download the MP3s there as well. So you can plug that into Notebook LM. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you want to check out my webinar later today, AI Superpowers one. Okay, right. Let's get on to my interview with Rebecca. Again, Rebecca is working for NCFE, Innovation and Research. She's a hugely experienced assessment lead in policy and education. So she's really worth looking to. And we kind of spoke about innovation, reform, as part of the kind of new curriculum review that's going on, curriculum assessment review that's going on at the moment. And Rebecca's kind of a general outlook as to how things are going to progress within the assessment space. So here's my interview with Rebecca. Great to see you. Are you well?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Tim. I'm just quite fresh in my role at NCFE, so I've just been here a couple of months now, getting my feet under the desk, and it's conference season as well, so I've been out and about quite a lot over the last few weeks.
It's a very, very busy time, isn't it? Lots of events going on, both here in the UK
Absolutely.
and international, isn't there? And so tell us a bit more about your role. What is your role now at NCFE?
So I joined at the end of August as NCFE's new Director of Research and Innovation. So I oversee all of the research work that NCFE does, our innovation, our social investment. It's all the exciting stuff, really. I'm really pleased to have the job. And in terms of the research that we do lots of research into the labour market, what our providers want. We're doing more and more on assessment as well, formal research, as well as more informal stuff as well. So, supporting our delivery teams in making iterative improvements and identifying ways to make the qualifications that we have, stronger.
The NCFE has always been kind of seen as being, well, I've always viewed it as being one of the kind of, I don't know, it's like a happy, jolly place, but also quite a forward thinking. They've had the research grants going for some time now. Have they got new research grants coming up soon?
Yeah, so I actually didn't really talk much about the innovation side, did I?
Yeah.
But in my innovation team, we've got a number of different partnerships, and one of them is with UFI VocTech Trust. Yeah. And we've been really pleased to work with them over the last couple of years on our Assessment Innovation Fund grants. We'll have a new one coming in February. We're just working out the details of what's going to be in that call for funding. But essentially, we want to support assessment innovation and give people the money they might need to get a pilot off the ground, really trial something that could be really new and innovative and interesting and, have a wider benefit for the sector.
And you've been, obviously you're an assessment specialist, you give presentations and you help people, you teach on the subject and things like that. How much more innovation can we have in assessment? Surely we must have kind of topped out already now. Is there more? Is there much more to be had?
Well, I just think it's a fluid thing, isn't it? And as the way I've been thinking about it recently, there's the big curriculum and assessment consultation is open at the moment. I think it closes on Friday. So we've been thinking about this a lot at NCFE. The way I think about it is, as teaching and learning continue to evolve, assessment needs to too. We need to mirror those normal ways of working for learners. So every new bit of technology that we see, there's a potential impact on how we assess learners, if that's going to be something that learners are using in their daily classroom practice. We're always looking at different types of skill as well, aren't we? So this conversation about 21st century skills has never really gone away, that we've been having for, about 20 years now, and it keeps evolving into something else. So those really tricky challenges of how we assess those quite intangible things like collaboration, teamwork, communication. So I think there's plenty of scope for innovation still. And, we see some really exciting ideas coming through the Assessment Innovation Fund, whether that's sort of AR and VR augmented learning, or, interesting formative assessment tools, cool less labor intensive ways to gather data for teachers to really track how learners are performing. There's plenty of scope for innovation out there.
Okay, and you mentioned the curriculum review. For those that don't know what's going on with that, the consultation that's out there at the moment, do you want to kind of give people a bit of an idea as to what it's about and what they're trying to achieve with it, where you think it might go? What's your thoughts on that? What is it, and what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's a major consultation actually, and it's an independent group who have ostensibly commissioned it, for the Department for Education. So this group has got some real heavy hitters on it, Becky Francis, Joanne Bird on the assessment side. So really serious, really excellent professionals and researchers who are leading the charge on this. And the scope is massive. So it's really looking at everything from sort of, education for sort of 4-year-olds through to 19. I think it goes up to Key Stage 5 from primary. And it's looking at, how we assess what's in the curriculum. There's a real focus on wellbeing. I think we're seeing quite a lot on that from the Education Minister as well coming through. So how do we assess in a way that is less detrimental to the wellbeing of young people? How do we do teaching, learning and assessment better? How do we do it for, the 22nd century? So it's a massive consultation in terms of scope. And I think it's really worth anyone who works in the sector having a say on that. So there's quite a lot, obviously I know the focus of your shows, Tim, is technology and how we're using that in assessment and teaching and learning. And there's quite a lot on how we're implementing tech as well and how we need to do that. So there's plenty to say, about finding like bold but coherent ways to ensure that we're kind of developing the curriculum and our assessment model for the future, making sure we're making best use of technology, but not being gimmicky or overcommitting either. So what I really want to see is a bit more of a rethink about what we're actually doing assessment for. So primarily it should be about showing us what learners know, what they can do, helping them to get into the next stage of study or work. I think it feels like we have an opportunity to decouple assessment from accountability measures, which would be really positive, I think, for those kids that and those adult learners as well that can't do high stakes external written exams. So it feels like a really good opportunity actually to get your philosophy across, and have your say.
And how
it just
hopeful...
closed on Friday, so you've not got too long to get those points sharpened up.
I know, yeah, it's got to be you've got to be quick, haven't you? And what's your kind of in terms of the view of where we're going with it? Do you think that we're over assessing at the moment? Do you think do you think that any of this will actually have any kind of traction? Do you think we've got the kind of I suppose the political will? I don't want to get politics, but do you think that there's enough will there to make significant changes if come up with a great consultation?
I think so. I think some of the noises we're hearing, like, going back to that point I made about well-being, I think they're quite positive, and it feels like there is there's some listening ears in this group. And like I say, they're all like very esteemed educationalists. They're not just people who've been cherry picked to make up the numbers. They've all got really strong and excellent track records in education and assessment. So I do feel like there is an appetite to change. I think what we've seen actually is a real pull to the middle of most qualifications in the English system. So we're seeing a lot of reliance on those high stakes written exams like we'd see for GCSEs or A levels. That's coming into different subject areas, technical and vocational. So it does feel like a good opportunity for me to really highlight the strengths of different assessment methods, and see what we can implement to offer learners a real choice and create a landscape that meets the needs of a diverse selection of learners, because we know that all learners don't approach teaching and learning and assessment in the same way. So we need to find options to make sure that there are options for everybody out there.
And I was listening to a podcast recently. I think it was Beyond Technology one, the JCQ one, no JISC one, sorry. And they were talking about options, assessment options as a kind of route, and they've done some work with QAA and come up with kind of different solutions there. I think it'd be great if when you're coming towards that kind of assessment point in your cycle, you could have a choice of routes to take. Do you think something like that would be possible, or do you think that's just a little bit too far stretched, really, for the I suppose the general education system?
In terms of learners being able to respond in different ways to an assessment.
Yeah, so rather than doing an essay, doing a presentation as part of the thing, do you think we'll see more of that, or do you think there'll still be that kind of standardized route of, yes, that's fine, we'll look at a different way, but everyone has to do the same way? Do you think there's going to be more optionality?
I think it depends what we're talking about. I think for GCSEs and A-levels, there is a challenge with the scale of it.
Yeah.
But I think the technology that we're seeing, there's a strong move to on-screen from those general qualifications awarding organisations. I think AQA and Pearson's and OCR have committed by 2025, 2030 to go on screen. So I think we're seeing technology enabling a bit more flex. For other qualifications with lower student numbers, I think we do have more flexibility, actually, and we've got really established heritages, in other subject areas, level 4, level 5. We see a lot of portfolio assessment, for example. If you look over at what's happening in the apprenticeship side of things, we're seeing a lot of professional discussions, a lot of portfolios underpinning those. Observations in the workplace, for example. So I feel quite positive that we will see more of that, but there is just that logistical challenge to get around with some qualifications where you've got really, big learner numbers.
Yeah, the scale's always going to be a challenge, isn't it? And then the other thing I kind of explored was just the idea that most assessment you end with a grade, don't you? And that's it. There you go, off you go. Thank you. I suppose one kind of camp is that we've seen it with the diagnostic stuff that's been going on in kind of Wales and places like that, where there's more of a kind of, there's more value from the end observation, there's more feedback that's given from it. It's like, for instance, GCSEs. GCSEs in a way are, they're obsolete in some ways, aren't they? As a kind of, as a journey. It'd be much better if there was you went through an assessment cycle where it gave you more information for where you're going to then carry on your journey. Because when they were designed, you left school at 16. That's not the case now. Do you think we should be looking at more, I suppose, more informative assessment processes where it helps the learner on the next stage of the journey, that lifelong kind of continuous journey? Do you think that's something we should be looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we just need to be really careful. It goes back to what I was saying about purpose. So what are we using assessment for? If we want to assess a learner to get a certificate, at the end of a period, school or college or university, to show what they know and can do at that time, we need to do some kind of summative assessment. Yeah. And we need to really get a sense of everything they know and that they can do in relation to what we're interested in. But I think it's formative assessment is really powerful in terms of generating that information to show us where learners need a bit more support, where we might need to give them extra teaching, where they might benefit from doing some additional enrichment activities. So to me, if we're going to be really, truly transformative in terms of how we're talking about assessment in this consultation and going forward, we need to think about all those different types of assessment and how they fit together. So doing like an initial diagnostic assessment at the beginning of a program of study, as I said, with the formative assessment, keeping that going, making sure we understand where learners are in the learning, what additional support they might need even. And then that gives them a sense of where they are and what they know, what they can do, what they might want to do next. And then if we need to certificate at the end, we can do that summative assessment. So it's really just thinking about how those different assessment types join up, to meet the purposes that we need at the time. Because, we use assessment for loads of different purposes, don't we? So it's just being really clear on what we're doing it for.
Yeah, it's not just for the sake of assessment, isn't it? It's got to have an objective in there. So some exciting times, I suppose. So if anyone's listening and you want to get involved in the consultation, then make sure you get your submission in before Friday's deadline. Next week is FAB. Are you looking forward to that? Well,
Always, yeah, it's always good, isn't it? It's such a nice networking event. I think everyone goes from the world of AOs, don't they? So I'm really looking forward to catching up with everyone. They've got some fab speakers, no pun intended. So, yeah, really looking forward to it. And I'll see you there as well, Tim, as well as hopefully some other folks who are tuning in today.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be good to catch up, and we've got the there's a panel I think on AI and assessment, which I'm kind of looking forward to. I was saying to a kind of guest last week, I'm not massively hopeful that we'll come out with any kind of huge, solid, I suppose, practical advice from it. But I hope there will be. But I feel at the moment we're still going round a little bit in circles as to what the future is going to hold. There's consultation and things like that will obviously help on that. I just hope that everything's keeping pace with the rate of change that's going on in that kind of the whole AI industry and beyond, really. So yeah, it'd be a good one to go to, and as ever, it'd be good to catch up and see everyone, won't it? Well, thank you very much. Oh, the last thing, just a reminder, February, you say the research grants will be coming out from NCFE.
Yeah, so keep your eyes open for the next funding window opening. It'll be around February time. We've not finalised the date yet, but we'll get some information out, and we're going to have some events around that time as well, celebrating some of our past grants and what people have gone on to do and what we've got out of the projects, as well as looking forward to what we can do next. So exciting times, yeah, and we're really keen to get as many applications in as possible, so we can really fund some fantastic stuff.
Excellent, yeah. So everyone keep your eyes open for that one. So brilliant. Well, thank you very much. Hopefully I'll see you next week in Leicester, sunny Leicester. And thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rebecca. That was excellent. Really, really interesting insight there into both the work that NCFE are doing, the idea of what they're trying to achieve, or Rebecca's views on what they're trying to achieve with the consultation. Quite an interesting exercise. I suppose it might be, it'd definitely be too early, but there will obviously be some talk about it at the Westminster Education Forum that will be coming up in December. But like Rebecca said, if you do want to contribute to that consultation, then you have until I think it's the 22nd is the deadline. Weirdly, though, they're doing a roadshow event in Doncaster on the 26th. Don't quite get that. Maybe that's not interested in the views of people in Doncaster. I don't know. I'm sure they are. Anyway, right. Thank you very much. And we'll see you soon. Well, I'll see you later if you come into the Superpowers webinar later on. So I'll see you for that. But if not, I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.